Okay, I admit it, Kansas City is boring. But before you click away, let me tell you why in the world of real estate, boring can be a beautiful thing. While most of the know-it-alls are still talking year after year about how the market's about to crash, using fear to get clicks, through all that noise and all those headlines, Kansas City still stands out, or rather, it stays discreet. It's just chugging along right outside of the spotlight. In this video, I'm going to let you in on what's really happening in the Kansas City real estate market and how you can take advantage of the opportunity before it's too late. Hey, I'm Justin Barrett, the Plains Paris real estate team right here in Kansas City, and I've been in the industry for more than 20 years as a broker, appraiser, and investor, and I'm here to share everything that I've learned, teaching you everything you need to know about moving to my favorite city so that you too can make smart moves in real estate. Now first, do me a favor and hit that like button, ring that bell, and also if you're even thinking of moving our way, give us a call, text, or email. We'd love to help make moving to Kansas City a breeze for you, so don't hesitate reaching out. We're real people ready to get to work for you. Ignore the big news outlets, they're never talking about Kansas City, and what's happening in San Francisco isn't necessarily happening here. In fact, much about Kansas City is relatively boring, so the news doesn't really cover what's going on. Kansas City, aside from Kelce and Taylor Swift taking a cliche rom-com ride around the city, really doesn't get much press. The first thing I want you to know if you're trying to wrap your head around this year's market is that Kansas City's market is historically boring. Our appreciation doesn't make the news. What happens here is relatively quiet. The worst financial crash of my lifetime actually occurred here 15 years ago, just like everywhere else, and Kansas City, like everywhere else, saw the impact of it. When the market crashed, the cameras, they went to Florida, California, Arizona, and New Mexico. These were markets flooded with second homes that were over-leveraged, basically boom towns that went bust when the gold ran out. In contrast to those sunny hot spots seen on the news, overall Kansas City's reaction was very minimal and boring. So how does Kansas City stack up? Well, Kansas City isn't a tourist town. If you've came to Kansas City, it's probably due to work, a kid's soccer tournament, or a sporting event. And up until the last 10 or 15 years or so, there really wasn't a whole lot to come to Kansas City for. So in that regard, it's kind of boring too. Of course, if you've seen our other videos, that's all changed recently, but Kansas City still has not become a tourist destination per se. Now that's a big deal if we're looking at housing or places that we want to live every day, versus places we want to visit every now and again. That means most of our homes are owned or rented by people who are here and live here every day for employment. They're not just here for the winter. Now, employment in Kansas City, it's a little boring too. Our top industries are transportation related, medical and medical technology, and agriculture. And we do have some other things. Even our tech-based businesses are just a little boring. It's not San Francisco here. But when we think about investing in real estate, boring again is actually good. When the crash happened, people still bought items that needed to be transported. They still bought food that needed to be transported, and they still had medical needs. So by and large, most of our largest employers didn't have a reason to lay people off. Because of this, the crash in Kansas City too was relatively boring. Yes, there was discomfort, and yes, there were foreclosures and layoffs, but nowhere near the level that other cities saw, which meant that Kansas City's recovery was pretty fast and the actual fall was not that drastic. If you look at this house price index for Kansas City, you can see that growth was relatively stable since the early 1970s, growing right along with the national economy. You won't see the savings and loan dip in the 1980s that's often talked about. It didn't affect Kansas City too bad. You also won't see the dot-com bubble affecting housing here. The big run-up to the recession was even a little underwhelming, and when the big crash hit, it permeated from the coasts, and it took a while for it to actually impact our market. By 2012, we were already getting back at it and growing steady Eddie. When we look at Kansas City's year-over-year price, we see that the market looks pretty consistent. Even when the market was strong, like in 2004, it was still pretty boring because historically price increases haven't been a whole lot to get excited about here. Crypto markets and stocks, they get a lot of headlines too, not because they're reliable, but because they're volatile and exciting. Kansas City, in fact, is so predictable, I can generally tell you when the best times of the year are for you to buy depending on what you want. Our market is cyclical, so if you want to have the most choices, of move-in ready, all dolled up homes, you'll want to be shopping here in April and May. But the best buys are in the winter when sellers who overpriced their properties early in the year, they come to reality and now they have to discount their homes to chase buyers' attention. Usually sellers' confidence has fallen by this time and the holidays are happening and they're just ready to make a deal. Case in point, last December I actually bought a property that was setting setting on the market for $295,000. I made a $225,000 offer and I won. Seller was just ready to move on. I resold that same property after some paint and carpet this summer for $365,000. Now, I often pick up these deals in winter because the seller is waiting on an offer and buyers are just used to looking at list prices as if they're gas prices or retail prices. Buyers today are afraid of negotiating on cars anymore, so they choose to deal with Carvana and just pay full price. Now, as a professional negotiator, I'd rather ask and get a few no's. Now, I could show you graph after graph of boring stats that will prove my case, but they're really boring to look at. Okay, here's a few. Hit pause if you really want to look at them, but seriously, if you're thinking of moving to a new city and you're wanting to escape the chaos, traffic, high crime, high cost of living of your current city, and you're wanting to live somewhere that's pretty steady, predictable, affordable, boring old Kansas City might be worth checking out. I find that most of the buyers we work with that are moving to Kansas City, they're just looking to live a comfortable life and raise their family in a safe place that has opportunity. Now, if that's you, Kansas City is definitely worth checking out and at least having a conversation about. So if you're even considering moving to Kansas City, go ahead, give us a call, text, email, whatever's best for you, 816-439-8705. Also, make sure you take our Finding Your Perfect Place in Kansas City quiz in the description. It's free. Just answer 11 questions and we'll point you to the neighborhoods that fit your personality. And remember, when it comes to moving to Kansas City, all you have to do is point the direction. We'll guide you there.